Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another Adobe Live. Today, we're going to talk about photography. We're going to go into Lightroom a little bit. We're going to look at Alina's work today. So, if you're in YouTube right now, come over to Behance because we have a chat in Behance and you can ask Alina some questions while we go through her work. And I'm already looking at the chat right now and I see some familiar faces. I have not been on the UK stream in a while, so I have to say hi to some people. I see Caroline, Sean, Gareth. I see Tim. Hi, Tim. I see Emma. Hi, Emma. So hello, everyone. You can ask questions in the chat later. But now I want to introduce our guest. I have Alina here. Hello. So happy to have you.
Hi. Hello. Really nice to meet you too.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick and show us the work that you do?
Of course I do. This is what I'm here for. So hello, everyone. Really nice to see you. My name is Alina Rudia, and I'm a photographer. Originally, I'm from Ukraine, but right now I live in Berlin, Germany, and that's where I work. My focus is on travel photography as well as lifestyle, and I love to use colors and natural light in my pictures. So I've been working with different companies for years now, and whatever I do, either portraits or some kind of street photography, I always try to look for colorful images. And I've published books, I wrote articles as well, and I'm also like a keen Instagram user. So if you want to see more of my work, you can definitely check it on my Instagram profile. And here I'm showing just basically like a short portfolio of my work. As you can see, like wherever I go, I take really colorful pictures. I don't really change the colors in Lightroom or Photoshop that much. I prefer to find the colors in real life. So this one, for example, is from Kolmanskop, the ghost town in Namibia, and the colors are real and the sand is also real. Yeah, like whenever I go, I also sometimes take self-portraits, something like this. As you can see, this is from New Zealand, and I wanted to do something special and something unusual. And I didn't really dress to impress, but I saw that my leggings was the same color as the lavender around me. So I've decided to play with the color. Yeah, this is a portrait I've taken. Sometimes the English fails me. I took in Iran, and the beautiful light, the natural light falling from the little windows here falls onto the woman's face. And this is basically what I'm always looking in portrait photography. So I'm looking for beautiful light and for the color contrast, which can really attract attention of the viewer.
I have a question in between. Yeah. Let me know if I jump in too much, like with questions. When did you start finding your like niche of photography? Like when did you decide to do that kind of photography, or how did that develop?
Well, I mean, I've started photographing. My father was an amateur photographer. He was actually a nuclear physicist, but also took pictures just for himself and for fun. So I was surrounded by cameras since childhood. Mm-hmm. And I started taking pictures when I was quite young. I think like 11 or 12, I already got a little film camera. But then I decided to study photography. So I've moved from Kiev, which is my hometown, to Berlin, where I've studied in a school, in a photo school, and then also at the university. And at that time, I really did a lot of black and white photos, which I still do. But then at the same time, I was always attracted to color. So I was attracted to beautiful color combinations. I was really in love with also cinematic photos. So like this kind of pictures which looked like a movie, you know. So basically where you look at a picture and you think it could have been a still from a movie. And I was a big also fan of painter Edward Hopper. So, you know, the American realist, and he used also beautiful light in his picture as well as like really lush, really lush colors, deep lush colors. So I really look for that kind of reminiscence in my pictures. And then Instagram came, so I started traveling more when I started growing my audience. Companies started coming, and I love travel, so I always told people that I didn't become a travel photographer for a long while, not because I was really wanted to be a travel photographer. It's just that I was a photographer and I loved traveling. So that was basically the part. And here's a picture, for example, I took in Grand Canyon, and I love it because it is such an unusual setting for that place. Grand Canyon is one of the most beautiful places I've been, but I've never seen it in rain and in such a surreal setting before. So for unusual light situations. So for example, here it is in Greece in the morning, like this kind of place would be looking quite normal during sunlight, but this is a morning in the foggy place, and it just gives that kind of mystical feeling to it. So yeah, for some pictures I had to wake up really, really early. The suspension bridge in Nepal, probably at 4 a.m. I had to wake up to get to the place. Yeah, like this is a pictures from Burning Man festival in Nevada. This was a place where I really just loved taking pictures because it was all like a big movie to me with the most beautiful ethereal light. So yeah, I loved taking pictures there.
Those images look amazing.
Well, this place is amazing. I have to admit that I think it's really hard to take a bad picture at Burning Man just because the art is so surreal and people have the most amazing costumes. And of course, because the light and the whole, this dust in the air, it creates this kind of layering, which is really unbeatable. So it was a really beautiful place to take for any photographer. I think it is very, very important, like not important to go there, of course, but if you have a chance, this is like a really nice place to take pictures.
I'll put it on my bucket list.
Oh. I hope it will take place this year again.
Yeah, I hope so too. Also, this really looks like a movie still. Like if you were going for that look, this really looks like a still. Were you up high, or was this taken?
Yeah, I think I was on. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I was on some kind of tower. So yeah, and that's this like castle. It was burned in the end. So if you think about it, it's probably not the most ecological thing to do, but it was very spectacular indeed.
Yeah, someone, Sandrine in the chat, just said that she had friends that massively, I'm just going to say, indulged in substances, and she thinks they could have taken bad photos there for sure while partying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is for everyone to decide for themselves, but I think this place is so surreal. You do not really need to indulge into any substances to actually see the beauty of that place. It looks like Mad Max setting for sure. Yeah, just to go through like my other work, this is probably one of the work my documentary work, which I worked for a long time. And this is Pripyat Mon Amour book, which I did in the ghost town of Pripyat, which I was evacuated from as a child after a Chernobyl nuclear accident. So I went back there and I took self-portraits, as well as this is a self-portrait I did there probably 10 years ago. And as you can see, non-travel work, I still go for some kind of color or a splash of color in the midst of the grayness, which obviously was there in the ghost town. Here I also took people who were either born in Pripyat, which is the town which was completely evacuated in 1986, or who lived there, and I took them to the places where they lived or where they had happy memories of their childhood. And basically, I wanted to see that kind of nostalgia. So this is a project which was very personal to me. And I took also interviews with the people, and it was really, really personal, but at the same time, it was very beautiful and cathartic to be there and to actually see all these people who were really, really happy at the place, which is now completely abandoned.
Sandrine in the chat is asking if that's even like, is it safe going there now? Can you just go to these places?
You can go, yes, you can go as a tourist. I mean, obviously the place is still contaminated with radiation, but you can go for a short while with no really health consequences. I mean, there are definitely problems if you would, there's still people living there. So there are these old ladies, I actually have the few pictures just skipping through this old ladies who are still living in the villages surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear power station. So this is also was a part of my documentary project with basically the last, you can call them survivors. They came back to their old abandoned houses and they lived there. Most of them are in their 70s or 80s, and they still live there. And, you know, they brew moonshine, as you can see here in the picture. And even here, I still try to find this kind of colors, which really, and the vivid nature, which took over the Chernobyl exclusion zone after people left. It really mesmerized me as well. So it was a very beautiful place to go and very sad at the same time, but also like seeing the nature taking over. Yeah, really. And, you know, the nostalgia in their eyes and, you know, seeing the pictures they showed me from their youth was really like heartbreaking, but also very beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy that there are still oldest places, oldest like old pictures there. So yeah. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures. Before even dying, this old couple, they did the coffins for themselves in case when they die. I mean, it's kind of not even sarcastic, like kind of ironic. They're still alive and there's a bike in their shed and they're like, well, then the lower one is for the wife and the top one is for the husband. So they have a very routine, like kind of, you know, like approach to death, nothing special for them.
Very practical approach, it seems.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, this is a book. This is a book which I curated and which is basically like a few years ago, I started Bell Collective, which is a community for and of female identifying photographers who want to kind of break the stereotype which still exists on social media, especially surrounding like what female creative choices are, as well as travel choices. Because for a while I was, as I said, I was doing like influencer jobs and posting for different companies and tourism boards on Instagram. And I've noticed that, you know, me as a photographer, that there is majority like stereotypes about female traveling and taking pictures is being basically a beautiful girl with a beautiful dress, like her pictures being taken by somebody else. And this is basically was the majority of pictures, travel pictures taken of women and not by women. And so in this case, I realized also when I'm traveling somewhere and doing adventures somewhere in Iceland or Argentina, they're mostly men surrounding me, and because they're saying that women are not really interested in adventure and in harsh climate and stuff like that. So I founded Bell Collective with like-minded women, and we had this book published in one of the biggest German publisher, Du Monde, a few years ago, and it basically is a collection of 14 women who are doing travel photography, but at the same time, their styles are totally different because there's not one style. Like some of them travel with a drone, some of them do more lifestyle pictures, others do documentary, some others do minimalistic work, and all of them travel and all of them take pictures, but there's no one way of basically describing travel photographers and how these women define it. So yeah, these are pictures, my pictures from the book. I took some in my home country, Ukraine. I was really actually fascinated to travel to places I've never been to before. Yeah, and again, the cinematic like mood in my mind really like took over, and I took the pictures which could have been probably from a movie.
Yeah.
These are
And
also,
how did you come up with the name? I wanted to ask you. Why is it
well,
called Bell Collective?
to be honest, I wanted something catchy and I wanted something which has a meaning. So when I thought about like some famous female photographers or anthropologists or adventurers, I was thinking of like I checked out who is an inspiring woman I can think of to call the collective after. And I discovered, or basically I've heard of her before, Gertrude Bell, who was one of the like first women traveling and writing about Middle East. There's actually a movie even about her with Nicole Kidman, I think. I've never seen the movie, but I've read extensively about her work, and she really, really inspired me because she did something so unusual at the times when like no women were really doing anything like that. And so, and I thought also bell, just like a normal bell, you know, like to ring a bell, it rings a bell in your mind. So basically it's some kind of like sound of alert, because basically trying to like get attention of people to this kind of stereotypical perception of professional women in photography and in travel photography especially. So that was the name.
And what do you have planned for the collective now? So what is the next like thing that you have on the horizon?
Well, there's a lot of things I am considering doing, because there's so many opportunities actually, and I am always trying to, whenever I work as a photographer or if I get a job, a project where I can work with more people, then I definitely always work with other women. So this is my goal, to actually now also create a production company based on the Bell Collective, where I would work with other women, so an all-women team. And this is the reason for that is like not to exclude men, but more to focus on women and on their vision, because they're very, very often overseen, especially when it comes to commercial photography. And yeah, despite like so many women, actually majority of women being graduates of photo and art school, it's still a very small minority that are making a successful career in commercial photography because of various reasons. So we do need a platform, and we do need to develop that. We need to actually hear their voices. And yeah, I want Bell Collective to be that platform for women to get jobs actually, and to be loud about themselves and to show their vision, which is often overseen.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing all your new projects.
Well, I'm looking forward to this part. These are a few pictures I'm showing further, but I also prepared a little Lightroom presentation. Yeah, so here's also like pictures of people I took while traveling. I always work with the available light. I never use flashes. So whenever I photograph people on the go, all these portraits, I want them to look as if they're taking spontaneously, even though sometimes they're staged. But yeah, I always use natural light or available light to take my pictures. And these were the series of pictures I took in Tokyo of different people from different subcultures and backgrounds. It was very interesting. So I always try to play with the light and with the reflections and with the symmetry, and composition is usually very important for me. So yep, these are basically another examples of my work, which also consist of bright colors and using light, which, for example, this picture is very inspired by Edward Hopper, which I was talking about before.
There's also a Wes Anderson movie that is like highly influenced by Hopper photography, if I'm not wrong?
I think, I'm not sure about that, but I definitely love Wes Anderson, and a few of my photos are in the Accidentally Wes Anderson book, which was published last year. So this is also a community on Instagram, which basically publishes all the pictures people take of the places which could have been from a Wes Anderson movie.
Like pink hotels kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of style. So very pastel colors, symmetrical. So anything. Here's a picture of my husband, just bragging.
Just dropping that in there while we go through some photos.
Exactly. Yeah, so the light is also very important for my photography. I really love shooting in golden light. And I think for most people who are struggling with not knowing like what's the best time to take pictures, I always recommend try shooting in golden light, either with backlight or with the front light, because you will get this beautiful dreamy look. And I think I often get like asked what is the best time to take pictures. And I mean, I always say like, okay, there is always an opportunity to have a good picture at any kind of light. But if you really are struggling and want a very beautiful one, then try the golden hour, which is like a few hours before sunset and like an hour after sunrise. Oh yeah, so
that looks like it's in Berlin. Is that Berlin?
Yes, this is Berlin. Yeah. This is Berlin, and this is also something like this girl. She's a burlesque dancer, and she loves to have different costumes. And we were thinking, like, what kind of story can we tell while being on the lockdown? And yes, a princess on a lockdown, being bored and doing her laundry was basically the backdrop of the story. So yeah, when I basically shoot pictures, I always think of what kind of story I can tell, or what kind of story a viewer can basically tell while seeing it. Yeah, a little bit of dramatic effect here. I love shooting with the drone, so sometimes I actually do drone photography and drone portrait photography, as here, for example, as well. The color contrast is really strong here, and that's what I like about it. And also, yeah, the light here, as you can see as well, like the depth of field is also important. I love shooting with 85 millimeter lens or with 70-100 telelens in order to create this kind of bokeh and blur.
Yeah. We have a question in the chat. The question is, I'm just going to read it to you. A lot of subjects seem to be framed by objects in their environment. Is that a conscious response to differential framing? Like, do you put people in these environments, or does this just happen? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think framing, like here, for example, you can see that this guy, a musician I've met in Lviv in Ukraine, he also framed by the door. And I think this kind of natural framing, it just helps to focus on the picture, on the person. So whenever I have an opportunity also like to shoot through something, it also creates a kind of layering, plus it creates this kind of a feeling that you're just peeping into somebody else's life in a way. So that's what I'm doing. So here, for example, as well, this kind of geometry, it's like it leads, like the rhythmic repetition, it leads to the center where she hangs. And of course, I also wanted to do a upside down picture just because I thought it would be unusual. I also started doing magazines, and these are pictures from the rave culture in Berlin I shot recently, and I really loved it. So these were really cool people, and me for the first time actually in years shooting with studio light. I also do a lot of street photography. Again, I'm always looking for light, unusual perspectives and colors in my photos. For example, this one from Iran, like I wanted something unusual from the pink mosque in Shiraz, because usually people are always doing the post picture there, and this is more looks like something, again, like you can see that I framed it also with this here in the foreground with a column to have this feeling of me like peeping from behind. Well, that sounds creepy. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, it gives the images so much depth, with this, with like something in the foreground. It just makes the image seem bigger in a way. Like it's not flat. You can see it is 3D. You can see it's going into a room. I really like that. Yeah,
I love to work with the different layers, and I also like to, even if like I photograph beautiful architecture, I always like to have some kind of people in foreground, especially when they look like nice and not nice. I mean, nice is a bad word, but if they look interesting, if there is an opportunity, like for example, here, this is a beautiful set of houses, of course. But then, you know, like, for example, here also, there are no people in it, but also there is also this depth and condensity of the pictures of the houses. So, and it's also vertically like condensed. So I really, really like this kind of framing sometimes. I was taking these pictures in Porto, I think, and I really like the condensed feeling of the architecture here and the perspective, looking from far away and using 70-100 camera. Yeah, whenever I choose architecture pictures, I choose to put people into them to actually show the scale and everything. Exactly. So to actually also have some movement and dynamic. I love that because I think it always makes the picture more vivid. Yeah, this is, for example, in Muralla Roja, and I really like the geometry of it, but adding a person into the picture, it really feels like more personal and some also like it tells a story.
Yeah. And just as a segue into like editing and stuff, like in the last one, in the pink one, is all these colors are actually like the colors.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very famous building. It's called Muralla Roja by the Spanish architect Ricardo Bofill. And this is a building he actually, I think he constructed when he was really young. I think he was like 34 and that was his like first really building he constructed. And it's mainly like blue and pink colors and magenta. So a lot of people want to take pictures there, but it's a private property where you can either pay to go or to shoot commercially, or in this case, it was me renting an Airbnb inside with friends. And so we took some private pictures there, which is, of course, just a beautiful opportunity to actually just see that beautiful building. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So we would want to go into editing right now. So I'm going to Lightroom now, and I've prepared something for to basically show my process of picking, tagging, and doing a light edit of pictures. And in this case, I chose a road trip story a few years ago. Before lockdown, I went on a road trip with my husband. We went to Belgium and France and Italy and Germany. And through this whole trip, I, of course, took a tremendous amount of pictures. And yeah, now I picked a little collection, which I want to show, like, why would I choose like a particular picture? What really draws me and what makes me decide on a particular picture when I edit.
Right before you jump in, I just want to like share one thing with you. Jan in the chat said that Alina is a perfect example of it's the photographer that makes the photo, not the camera. Brilliant stuff.
Thank you so much. Well, I mean, I think that regarding the camera, I think it's also important to say that, of course, you can take a great picture with any camera. And if you have an eye, if you are trained, I always tell my friends who ask me about how to take better pictures, you can start with your smartphone and you can take really great pictures. But you need to know the limitations of a certain camera, certain lens, because of course, like with the smartphone, you won't be able to do really this like depth, like to create this depth. You cannot really zoom in without losing the quality. So there are particular pictures which are really great. You can take with a camera and like flat lays or maybe some street photos because nobody really sees you. But then a good camera, like I shoot on Nikon Z7 and 6. And I have the travel lenses for traveling. I use 70-200 lens, which I love, and it creates that depth and that condensity, which is not possible with a lot of locations I went. For example, the pictures I showed from the Tunnel of Love, where you have the dogs in the tunnel, green tunnel. Like, it's not possible to create that kind of density with the phone, for example. So certain images, like, you need help from technical help to actually create that kind of image. But yeah, you can actually practice with any kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, long story short, I would like to, show, I think like this, probably, so people can see what kind of tools I'm using. And yeah, as I said, like, there's a road trip pictures, and I would probably go through most of them and tag the ones which I think are best. So we started the road trip in Belgium, and we were, I think we started in Holland, but I think this one was already in Belgium. And we were taking, I wanted to take pictures of some mills, of course, in Flemish mills, but I was looking at the perfect light and the perfect interesting story. And of course, I saw this bird over here, and I was waiting. I was like, well, maybe some nicer opportunity comes up. So I ended up having this picture where you don't see any mills, but at the same time, it's something unique, which is definitely sounded like something more interesting. And I thought that probably this picture would be the one I will take from that day. So let me see. So I go into develop, and I flag them. I usually just go through the pictures quickly, and I flag those which I like. So I just use a shortcut here, the only shortcut I really know, the P, which is flag. Then, you know, like, I was also at the beach and seeing this, like, really kind of ugly buildings. It was not very romantic, but at the same time, I saw this geometry of the buildings of this next to the moon, and I thought that would be a really nice place also to take a picture and probably work with this and do some kind of minimalistic, interesting shot. So I flagged that. Then we moved to France, and to Etretat, which is a beautiful place in Normandy. And I was looking through the pictures in the sea and going for some kind of romantic, minimalistic shot of boats. I probably picked this one because I like the very, like, unanimous background. This place is very famous with photographers, and I honestly wanted to take great pictures of it, but the weather was not the best. And I also thought that, you know, this kind of angle probably thousands of photographers did before me. So I was looking for an opportunity to actually shoot from a different angle. And then I saw this boys like swimming in the sea next to the area. So I was trying to find a better angle to see that, something more unique. And then I saw this angle and I thought, this is a unique story. This is something which like the rock will be there forever, but these boys are there only today. And then I saw them jumping, so there's a little movement in it, and I thought, this is the picture I want to have. So flag it. Then I was taking pictures of my husband. Here it looks like he's 5, but he's actually in his mid-30s. But yeah, without the beard, a lot of men look like babies. But here it was inside a beautiful church, and I wanted to take a picture of him with this available light. And then, yeah, I decided to add some layering to frame him, like with this blurry foreground and the background. So this is the picture I've chosen, another pick for me. And then we moved to Mont Saint-Michel, which is a very famous place, and a lot of pictures from the place. So I wanted to do something unique there. So we went to this point, which was a little bit further to see, but the weather was not so good. So I started to work, I started picking the cows and looking at the cows, because I was really disappointed. There was no sunset there's no good sun. It was raining. But then like after a while, you see like it's kind of like boring and gray. And well, I mean, what about it? So after a while, we waited. And I think that patience is a very important part of a good photography. So we waited and waited, and suddenly, like, you know, the sun started like setting, and the light came through, and we started seeing like magical things happening. And in this case, I was like, well, this was worth the wait. So we started looking for opportunities, and I was like, well, let's have a cup of coffee while the sun is setting. And then I took this picture of us drinking coffee there, and I thought this would be something very, very like personal, but also very Instagrammable. So I took this picture, so that's a pic. And then the light. So this is a totally raw picture. Like it's something I didn't develop at all. So this is exactly how it looked back then. So I was really mesmerized, and that was finally the moment where I said that this is the moment I was waiting for to take a picture of. So big for that. And of course, I thought maybe adding a person would be great too. So I added my husband. As you can see, he's not dressed to impress in this picture, but you know, he's not a fashionista, but at the same time we're traveling, so that would do. I think probably I would even pick more picture with, I don't like too close, if it's not a portrait, but more of a genre portrait with the background, I prefer more space around the person. And then in the other direction, we looked again, and there was this beautiful, beautiful rainbow. And I thought that, well, there's no Mont Saint-Michel in this picture, but I think it's very beautiful as well. So that is just that's just basically a process showing how many different light conditions are there in one day, and how different this Mont Saint-Michel, the famous monastery, looks in different lights. So we slept overnight in this place, and then the next morning it was a more traditional light setting, still pretty. Like I think with the one with the sheep looks pretty nice, but I still would rather prefer those pictures with sunset and with a rainbow, just because it is something unique and something which we cannot find on Google so often, at least. And this is why I picked those. Oh, this is actually from the only picture I probably took in Mont Saint-Michel, just because I thought that these birds look totally copy pasted. So I just thought it would be a really nice picture. Again, this is just to show how different the light can change in a matter of minutes. So it used to be like that, and then the cloud was gone, and the whole Mont Saint-Michel is there.
Mm. You already said that like patience is really important. I think especially with landscape photography. What are like other things you would like, tips or things that are important maybe for people that want to get into landscape photography, or just in general? What else do you think is important?
Well, I'm not really a landscape photographer. I mean, I do.
Or travel.
Yeah, I think travel photographer is better, because when you say travel, that means that you can actually like, you can photograph people while you travel. You can do architecture. You can do points of interest. You can also like, you know, concentrate on food. And this is actually what our Bell Collective book is about. So all these women do travel, but they all like see totally different angles of different, like one is doing only minimalistic shots of buildings, like in Marrakesh, and another person goes to Marrakesh, and what she does is street photography. So both of them travel, and both of them kind of do travel photography, but these are totally different aspects. And so I think it is important to realize like, what are you I think to shoot a lot, and just to realize what is that you really want to do. And also learn to actually, if you have a picture in mind, you have to learn how to actually take this picture, because sometimes people are so excited and they look at pictures on Instagram and they're like, I really love the picture, but then they don't know anything about exposure, they don't know anything about shutter speed, they don't really know, and they work in automatic mode, and then they try to do backlit pictures, and then it doesn't work, because of course the backlit you have to do to work with manual mode. And then people are disappointed because it doesn't look the way. And so they often say like, oh, it's Photoshop because it looks nothing like that on my pictures. And in many cases, of course, there's a lot of Photoshop on Instagram and social media, but at the same time, a lot of my pictures, like I don't really use Photoshop. I use it only very rare on like some kind of beauty retouch, which I also do rarely because I don't do beauty photos. But most of the time I work with Lightroom because it reminds me of darkroom, of course. And this is the minimum, and I'm trying to really show the real picture without really changing too much. So in this case, for example, you can see like this is a picture taken in a matter of seconds from each other. And I shot that kind of photo and it looks a little bit boring. And then here, the light is completely different just because I've shot against the light. And then, for example, you can always work with some kind of reflections here. This picture, as you can see, I'm also not so perfect when I shoot travel pictures. Like I'm not sitting there with my tripod trying to really like have the horizon perfect. Like, you know, especially if you're traveling, like my husband, he hates me like being with my camera.
We have to go.
Yeah, we have to go. That's exactly what he's doing. So in this case, he's like, no, like, let's just go. So I have a little, like, usually like I have a little time before he gets really like starts making faces, and you will see like what kind of faces he makes in the like in the presentation. But here, for example, this is a famous house in Brittany part of France, and it's like a lot of people try to take pictures of it, and of course, like I also didn't want to disturb people who are living there, so I took a few pictures and just laughed because obviously it's like everybody's taking pictures of their private property, which doesn't, but it's beautiful. So I tried to do a picture of it with a reflection. So I in order to get, in comparison to this picture, in order to get this picture with this reflection, I needed to lower the camera almost to the water. So in order to get that reflection, you can use even the smallest puddle, but in order to have this, you really need to like lower the lens almost into the water, which is dangerous. And I almost felt this is why crooked as well, because obviously like I couldn't really see like what's happening on my screen or in my viewfinder, and this is why I'll have to correct it in the future. Like this. This is a self-portrait, and interesting thing about self-portrait, sometimes I use tripod, but sometimes I do the composition and then I just ask my husband to take a picture of me, or because he doesn't like me taking pictures of him. So sometimes I feel like, oh, these stones really need a person on them. And well, I'm the person. So here it is. Yeah, this is beautiful dunes somewhere in Brittany as well. And I really love those people just walking there with their hats.
How many pictures do you usually pick for one series, or do you just like how many you like? There's no rules basically.
Yeah, I don't really. I usually, of course, I usually pick like the best pictures, which I think is the most powerful, and then maybe somewhere in the future I found the picture and I'm like, oh, actually this one is good, and I will publish it. But I don't really publish everything, but I like to develop them and just look at them, like to see if there's a story there. And especially now when you can like post carousels on Instagram. Before it was more like, I don't treat my Instagram like purely as my like best of the best portfolio. I just do whatever I like. And so sometimes I just post more pictures, sometimes less. Here's a good example, for example, of trying to wait for a perfect moment. So this guy over here, he was waiting for the wave to jump. So I was sitting there and like, oh, because it's a really, really tall cliff. And I was like really waiting for him. And then I missed it. I missed the moment when he was inside. Like I also, because I never take too many pictures. I actually never work in the sport mode, or I actually take quite few pictures when I do of a particular, like I always use the digital camera as if it was an analog camera. I would rather wait for a perfect moment than just like 100 of pictures, because that's also something a lot of people do. They will just like take 1,000 pictures, like, and then hopefully one will work. But this is not really photography for me. I think the whole fun of taking pictures is to actually like really catch that moment. And in this case, I didn't. So that's just the, so sometimes it doesn't work, that's it. And here, like, it's always concentrating on just details or maybe some beautiful moments, which can be like in-betweeners if you do like a diptych, like a collection. Here's, for example, so we went for a sunset. We went to this lighthouse, which was really pretty. And at the same time, I didn't know what to do with it because it's like, it sounded like, it looked quite boring without anything happening. So I decided to go lower into the grass. And then there was the little people in the far away just walking. And it reminded me of some kind of Hansel and Gretel story by Brothers Grimm. So two of them like walking towards this little lighthouse, it just really made it for me. I thought it was really kind of creepy and eerie at the same time. So I picked that one. This was already from this beautiful aqueduct in Provence. And here, for example, I was looking for a long time to take a picture. And I didn't know like also what kind of picture to do because this aqueduct has a lot of different things, but at the same time, I couldn't find like the right angle. So I decided to actually take a self-portrait, and that's the result of it. Obviously, it took a while to get this picture, but actually not that long. I think it was like a few tries. So to take that particular picture, and I'm wearing underwear here. A lot of people think that I'm naked. I'm not naked. I'm topless, but you don't see the topless picture. My boobs are underwater, so it's all very PC, I think, and very like child friendly. Yeah. So this picture, for example, it was very popular. Like I got a lot of likes and comments on my Instagram, which doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, it just a proof that that picture really worked. Because it adds some movement, it adds some dynamic. This is something different. This aqueduct is it's a Roman one from like whatever centuries ago. So there's a lot of pictures of that over it, a lot of postcards, but this is the one which really worked.
Also, I don't want to like interrupt you, but we have 15 minutes left if you want to like, just so you know about when you want to start the editing.
Yeah, I probably will end up editing like one picture just to show, or a few pictures, because I'm actually very quick. I don't do too much work. I just want to go until the end of the series because it's almost over. So yeah, again, we went to the Lago di Carezza, which is also a very famous place to go. The picture looks beautiful, but it's basically the landscape is beautiful. It's nothing about the picture which is special because it's just the landscape of the place which will be there for the next 1,000 years. So no work from my side here. The same with this Val de Funes in South Tyrol in Dolomites. I was waiting for good light here, and here's the good light. And again, the same picture. Then, of course, we went to Lago di Braias, and I wanted to take pictures in the boat, and I wanted to take pictures of my husband. But as you can see, he was not very happy. That is basically his usual face when I'm trying to take pictures of him. So I asked him to take my picture, and I did the most Instagrammable face I could do. So that is the picture he did under my creative supervision. And then finally, we were already in Germany, and I really wanted to go to this place, and I think it's in Nuremberg, this alley of trees, and without me, like just plain trees, I felt also missed something. So again, there are self-portraits of myself, and I was looking for perfect light and perfect composition, and I ended up with this picture because I thought it's more mysterious because I'm not looking into the camera and the light hits me just right from the left, surrounded and framed by the trees. So this is the pic from the whole thing. So if we go here into the filters and see what kind of pictures I flagged, actually not that many pictures at all. I think we can see them in the library. Yeah, there's not that many pictures, and I don't know, which one would you like me to maybe like slightly edit? Which would be the interesting?
I want to see the one with the rainbow because I really like that one.
Okay. Actually, here you can see that it will be probably hard. Like, let's go into develop mode and just figure out what we can do. So if we, the first thing I always do is cropping it and straightening. And in this case, like for example, if I wanted to post it for social media, I would go to this 4:5. And the thing is, like, I'm not really sure, like you can see that actually it's hard to straighten the horizon here, because I think it stands straight. So
There are like two lines, right?
yeah, and then there are two lines. In the back, there's one line, and then the back it doesn't actually look. So I think we have to just concentrate on the foreground and just crop it like what it is. I usually like think by the rule of thirds when I crop. So in this case, like working with a little bit of central composition, but still I'm having the lower part in the lower third. So actually giving more space to the rainbow here. So let's do like this. Yeah, and I don't think this picture really needs that much work on it color-wise, because the colors are beautiful. I can like maybe twitch a little bit just to see. It's always hard to photograph the rainbow, so I'd probably exposure go a little bit up. I usually lift up the shadows a little bit so the blacks are not too black, especially because if sometimes I'm printing the pictures, I'm always looking for a little bit less dark. I sometimes go into the colors and just twitch the individual colors a little bit. So, I mean, in this case, let's see, for example, what we can do to the, yeah, we can work a little bit on the yellow of the can, and with the blue, I mean, I don't think we actually need too much work here. It's very decent. It doesn't pop up so much. So yeah, in this case, I would leave it, maybe like actually add a little bit more contrast to it for it to pop up. Sometimes I just play with vibrance and saturation just to see like go a little bit less with saturation, a little bit more with vibrance, but I think not in this. Exactly. So I think this picture really doesn't need too much retouching. So sometimes I would just copy paste the settings, but in this case, I don't think we have a similar light in this situation. So we just go to some other picture, like for example, the one, yeah, with my husband here. So in this case, I would also go into cropping first. I was straightening a horizon a little bit. As you can see, it was a little bit crooked. And usually, again, like I would think of rule of thirds. So I would go and place him into the intersection of the left part a little bit. I don't like cropping too much, but at the same time, like I sometimes don't have the lens to go too close to the object. So sometimes I need to crop because I would want the object to be closer to me. Here, I really like go for the intersection of thirds. So actually, we go like this. In this case, I would probably go a little bit lower exposure because we already have really highlights, really beautiful light, and still he's wearing a black hoodie. So in this case, I would still get a little bit of blacks out. I mean, we can always use a little bit of a brush tool here to get some shadows a little bit lightened, but I wouldn't really do it right now. Just telling, like, because also this is like a basic edit I would always do to a bunch of photos, and then if I think that one photo really sticks, I would go further. And I want this light here, this sky a little bit darker, maybe a little bit more red. So I would go here into the colors again, and I think I'll twitch the red, like go a little bit darker of the luminance, and maybe change the hue just a tiny bit to make it, you see, like it can get more red. That's too much. Just a little bit. because it also affects the face and everything. But in this case, like it's not such a big deal if it's just a tiny bit redder, because that's basically also the reflection of the light on his face. So yeah. Also would probably play with the contrast a little bit more contrast here. Probably a tiny bit more exposure. Yeah, I think the darker is a little bit moodier. So I would probably end up with this picture. So yeah, that probably works. And
We have time for one more if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I think this one is kind of fun. I mean, here for sure, like because it was taken with a tripod, I didn't really frame it so perfectly because I didn't know where I would be jumping. So here I would need to, again, straighten and crop it. And here I would say, like, I would really go for a much more condensed crop, probably for my feet being in the middle of it. With the bridge in the back, you don't really, I mean, it's not standing straight, so it's a little bit angled, so you don't really know. Like, I remember when I was actually editing it, I worked on the perspective a little bit, but it looked more natural. But let's see, like, I think something like this would be fine. So it's more middle here. And I don't like the blue sky so much. So I would actually desaturate the sky. So I go into the blues and I go with the saturation a little bit down. So we have less blue. So we have also less blue in the water, but I think the water is dark enough not to actually see it. I think if you would be a perfectionist, you would of course probably just desaturate that part. You'd probably like drag a gradient here and like desaturate just the blue here. But I'm not a perfectionist. And so I wouldn't do it actually. We can go into the oranges and see whether we can go with the luminance of my legs a little bit further or more. Like it depends on whether I'm satisfied with the contrast my legs have with the water. So I have a little bit of more luminance in the oranges. So my legs look more contrasty against the water. And yeah, basically, again, working with contrast a little bit, maybe, yeah, with a little bit more contrast, maybe try to see if lifting up, or how do you say, like making the shadows lighter actually bring up a little bit more detail in the background. Yeah, sometimes I check out the white balance, whether the automatic white balance brings me a better option, but I think this one is a little bit too yellow, so I would just go for the light balance I shot it in. And yeah, I don't know really if it's a straight or not, but I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, there's no really guided straight lines to really operate on because the bridge itself is not parallel to the camera. So that sometimes it is hard because you're kind of thinking, well, it looks like it's really crooked, but it's not. So that is the option where we will go with. So yeah. I think that will be the picture.
Yes. Yeah, I think it looks great. I like it.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, we have 2 more minutes. So either you do really one quick one or we can wrap it up now. I leave it up to you.
I think I can do a picture of my husband just because I really like this portrait, and I think this is also the light. Again, like this is for example an opportunity to use the white balance auto mode because obviously this picture is way too yellow. So let's check what the Lightroom will. Oh, you see, like immediately, like a little bit, it goes, the temperature goes down, and actually I like it much more because you can also see the color contrast between the greenish background and the foreground here. So I'll do it a little bit darker. I'll probably crop it as well. I shot this picture central, so I would keep him in the center. Yeah, I like that kind of focus on him. I'd probably go into the greens and try to make them even more green in the background. Just basically playing with the colors and seeing where it would go. Also with the oranges, you can see that, yeah, there's more orange in his face than I would just work. I would also lower the exposure a little bit because his face is basically almost overlit, while the rest is more framed. In this case, I would even probably add a little bit vignette around him, and I would go into post-crop vignetting, and I would just add a little bit. I haven't been doing vignetting. Feather it so it's not so visible. So he is really in the middle of this picture right now. But yeah, this would be probably the picture of my husband. You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's a perfect ending to the stream, I think.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I hope like it was useful to someone or to everyone. I don't know.
We loved seeing your work and your workflow. Thank you so much. I highly recommend everyone checking Alina's work out on Instagram, and you also have a website. So wherever you want to follow her, please do. And we can't wait to see what is next and also what's next for Bell Collective. Thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It was actually really, really nice. And my internet worked.
Yes, thank God. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. We're going to be here next week. And until then, have a wonderful time. Bye, everyone.
Have a great evening. Bye.